a-hole for telling my ex-wife I don't care if she and her family starve and that I'm just responsible for our sons. Blah, blah, blah. I have 2 sons aged 16 and 14 with my ex-wife. Our marriage reached a bitter end when I learned she remained married to me for over 3 years. So I would support her through returning to school so she could switch careers to an even better paying one. Oh, despite her old one paying as much as mine. For years, I tried like hell to save our marriage because I felt it fracture. She played along until she got what she wanted, and then she was honest that she never wanted to save our marriage and had been over me for years.
That's tough.
Oh, absolutely not. What the actual hell is going on? How could you honestly say that out loud? Like, that's so fun. When we divorced, custody was set to 50-50 of our boys, and she was ordered to pay child support to me because she was making so much more after her change of career and education. She remarried a year after our divorce and had more children. At the birth of her last child 4 years ago, things got bad.
Here we go.
Her husband was diagnosed with cancer. Then one of her kids got diagnosed with a long-term medical condition. Then COVID impacted her job. Our boys would tell me how rough things were at her mom's and how they wanted to live more with me. So I went to court and the judge moved her down to every other weekend and changed the child support order to reflect her decrease in custody. Okay, and let me guess, she came to you for money after being a total dick to you. Right. Is that what happened?
That's exactly what happened.
Recently, she had to move into a smaller house because of how badly they were struggling, and then she came to me for help after the courts refused to end the child support payments. Oh, okay. I do feel like there needs to be a little bit of a change in child support if she's no longer out earning you. Is she out earning you still? She told me I needed to help her and that I should be helping to take care of my boy's family. No. She just maybe shouldn't be paying as much child support, if any. I told her she used me for 3 freaking years so she could survive off my money. She did not get to ask me for more to support a family that is not my own. So she's asking for you to not only pay for your own children, but also the children that she had with someone else? No. Absolutely not! She called me a selfish told me her family is living off charity and they could be so much better if I would help them. I asked why I was supposed to care. She told me she wished she had cheated while we were together and that using me for money wasn't enough.
This bitch.
Yo, she crazy though. Like, what? Okay. This is not how you get someone to give you money, dude. Honestly, the sheer audacity of like running to the person that you openly told that you were a horrible person to. Do you have zero pride? How are you not embarrassed doing that? And you're doing it again. You asked this man for money after using him and telling him that you used him. And now you're telling him that you wish you cheated on him? She told me about her family and how they would starve. I doubt that, but okay. I told her I didn't care if they did or did not. None of them are my problem and I only care about my kids. I mean, you could just get full custody of your kids and not have to deal with her anymore because like honestly, she called me an a-hole. Her husband sent me a text that night saying I was cruel and he hoped the boys would hate me when they realized I want their whole family to suffer. Okay, that's super emotionally manipulative. And my guess is they'll try to turn them against you. But again, this is not your problem, babes. Not in the slightest your problem. She could maybe play that card if she wasn't so horrible to you. But she's just shown time and time again that she's just a mean, spiteful person. And then she has the audacity to come to you for money. No. If you guys had a good relationship, at least, even then, you're literally not paying for someone's kids that's not yours. Not the a-hole, but make sure that you have a high-level conversation with your boys so that they're prepared for your ex and her husband to try and paint you as the root of all evil when they go over there. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. They're probably gonna do their best to manipulate them and make them feel like you're the reason why they're in that situation. This is why I'm saying, like, maybe it would be best if you had full custody.
Better call Saul.
In addition to this, keep all communications written. That's good advice for you too, so that they can get presented in court if necessary. Good luck to you and your kids. Yes, and also if you're keeping things in writing, just make sure that you don't also shoot yourself in the foot. Like, don't put anything in writing that's incriminating ever. Don't harass. Don't do anything that could hurt your case in court. She further insults him while trying to get him to give her money. Where is the logic? I can only imagine what she tells her kids about him. Honestly, like, you just dumb as hell. She had it work one time. She felt entitled to the money because she got it one time, and now she feels entitled to it again, and you took it away, and boo-hoo, crying me. Sorrows, prayers, allow me to play the world's smallest violin. You are not the a-hole, my dear. Have a nice long chat with your kids. Make sure they're aware of the situation.
2 years ago, I had an argument with my boyfriend of 6 years. We lived together, and for the past few weeks, he would go out at night and either come back very late or spend the night outside. He kept using work as an excuse, but I felt it in my bones that there was another woman involved. But I just couldn't prove it. I had built my life around this man. He was my whole world. I could feel him pulling away and I didn't know what to do. I just couldn't imagine a life without him. He was not perfect and he had cheated on me once in the past. But from what I was hearing from my friends, all the men were like this. So even though it was not everything I wanted in a man, and we argued a lot sometimes, especially in the past few years, it was the man I had chosen to spend the rest of my life with. And I had already spent 6 years with this man at this point. There was no one else out there for me. One day, as he was leaving the house at night, I decided to follow him, and he drove straight to his workplace. I felt so stupid for having doubted this man. He has been telling me the truth all this while. As I was driving back home, I decided to get him some snacks from a filling station close by. We had argued before he had left for work that night. I wanted to surprise him with the snacks and apologize for doubting him, but I entered into his office only to find him kissing a female co-worker passionately on his desk. I shouted, dropped the snacks on the floor, and slammed the door on my way out. He came home 30 minutes later. He apologized to me and told me he has not been happy with me for some time. And without me saying a word, he told me he wanted us to break up for some time. This man just cheated on me. And instead of him to beg me to take him back, he was rather the one breaking things off with me. I was so shocked that I didn't know what to say. He packed his bag and left our house that same night. I felt like I was dying. The only thing I could do was cry and cry and cry. And the funny thing about this whole situation was that I would take this man back if he comes back and apologizes to me. That was how pathetic my life was. You see, in my brain, I was thinking how I was supposed to start all over again with someone else. Like, where do I start? And I loved this man. And at least I knew him. I didn't know this new person I was going to meet or how he was going to treat me. I didn't hear from my boyfriend for 1 whole week. I think he even blocked my number because I couldn't reach him via his phone. And this was a blessing in disguise because I would have cried and begged him to come home. He came home the next week when I was not at home, packed more of his things and left. That day when I got home and I realized more of his things were gone, I felt like my heart was going to explode from my chest. I didn't sleep that night. I just cried and cried and cried. 2 days later, I received a text from a friend of ours. She asked me if I knew my boyfriend was dating another woman. Apparently, he had made his relationship official with his co-worker. At this point, I had not eaten for almost 2 days. I was a mess and my whole body was in pains. And in that moment, the only thing I could think about was the fact that I didn't want to lose my man, since I couldn't reach him via his phone and I didn't know where he was staying. The next thing I could think of doing was go to his workplace. So with my eyes red and puffy, I took my bath, changed my clothes, and drove to his workplace. When I got to his workplace, he was not there. So I had to sit in the reception area to wait for him. And I sat there for almost 3 hours waiting for him. After some time, he entered into the reception area with his new girlfriend. My heart started beating in my chest. I stood up and walked towards them. Immediately he saw me, he asked the woman to go. Then he pulled me outside. He told me to go and that he would come to me when he was ready to talk to me. I just burst into tears right in front of him. And he didn't even care. He just walked away from me and left me crying outside. I know I was acting like a fool, but I just couldn't control myself. I knew I would not be able to drive my car in the situation I was in. I couldn't even stand because I was too weak. I squatted down and took out my phone to charter an Uber. That was when I heard a voice asking me if I wanted a lift. I looked up and it was a man I have never seen before. I was too tired to say no, so I just nodded yes. I was so messed up to the extent that I was taking a lift from a stranger, someone I didn't know. This man introduced himself as Evans. I entered into his car without saying a word, and immediately he asked me if I was okay. I burst into tears and started speaking in gibberish. I didn't even understand most of the things I was saying. He tried to get me to calm down. He asked me if I had eaten and I said no. He drove me straight to a restaurant close by and bought me food. I was not in the mood of eating, but when I told him I had not eaten for 2 days, he forced me to eat. Then he drove me to my apartment. He took my number and called me the next day to check up on me. I didn't pick his call when he called the first time. I was just not in the mood. When he called the second time, I only picked his call up to thank him. He had really helped me out the day before, but this man didn't stop calling. He called me every single day after that, and before I knew it, I started expecting his calls every day. He took me out again 1 month later, and at this point, I was beginning to get over my boyfriend, but I was not ready to date anyone anytime soon. And this man waited for me. He waited for me for 6 months till I was ready to date again. And throughout this period, he called me every single day to check up on me. And on days I have not eaten, he will buy food and bring it over. He will send me motivational text messages every single day. I gradually fell in love with this man, but I didn't want to rush into anything. That is why I waited for 6 months. This man made me me so happy. One day, I was in the house with my new man when I heard a knock on the door. It was my ex-boyfriend. And the first thing this man said to me was that he was ready to talk now. And it's been 7 months since I heard from this man. He looked so lean and unkempt. I wondered how I could have fallen in love with a man like this. Now, my man was in the kitchen cooking for me when my ex-boyfriend came in. I didn't want my man to see him. I was scared he was going to laugh at me when he sees the kind of man I've been crying over ever since. I warned my ex never to come to my house again. I was throwing him out of the house when the kitchen door opened all of a sudden. My ex turned to look at him. I could see his face change and his eyes go wide with shock. He shouted, "Mr. Evans," looked at me and started stammering. Without saying another word to me, he ran out of the house. I turned to my man and asked him if he knew him. That was when I found out he was the owner of the company my ex-boyfriend worked at. So apparently this man had fired my ex a week after he had met me. Things had gone downhill from that point for my ex. He had not gotten another job after he was fired. I think his new girlfriend couldn't take it anymore after a few months and had left him for another co-worker. This man had fired someone for me and he didn't tell me anything about it. I didn't even know he owned a company. This new revelation only made me love him more. At this point, I think everything happens for a reason. If my ex had not treated me the way he did, I would never have met this man. My life is so different right now and I am always smiling. Evans has really proven to me that not all men are the same.
What's the dumbest thing you've ever done when absolutely baked? I smoke a lot, usually the equivalent of 4 J's a night, and every so often me and my wife will take brownies to start it off before we smoke. A buddy of mine stopped by my work 2 days ago and we talked for a bit. He's leaving and he asked me if I want a brownie with 500 milligrams. I thought that may or may not be fun. Let me find out. I pop the brownie 15 minutes before I leave work and drive the 5 minutes home. I talk to the wife and the kids for a bit and everything is great. I go outside with my wife. We smoke a bowl and marinate nicely on the couch for an hour. Everything is perfect. I mean, I'm baked as giraffe nerds. I'm seeing in Swedish and smelling colors, but that was the point, right? Kids go to bed, we snack a bit and decide to smoke another bowl as well as eat a brownie of our own. We come back inside to watch some TV. I take a shower and it is one of the best experiences I've had in my life. I could feel every molecule of water on my body. However, looking back I realize I tried to pass out multiple times while I was there. I get out and throw some sleep pants on. Returning to the living room with my wife, both still as baked as a fresh out of the oven chocolate chip cookie by grandma. We talk, watch a Vin Diesel movie and decide to go to the bedroom for a little private time. I remember thinking to myself, these brownies ain't all that. This is when the effing bear reached out and tried to take my soul. Word to David Goggins, with his sticky little claws. My reality, and everyone else's reality at this point do not exist fully together. I'm told this is the first time I will bounce off the floor. I know as I pull myself up, and know instantly that the night is about to go bad, so I focus on my wife, who always means the world to me, but right now is my everything. I try to pull myself together and talk to her. Then I turn around and find the source of all the current problems. I never named. This entity that torments me for the next 2 hours, and I have no memory of a visual, but according to my wife, he was a huge piece of crap, and an a-hole. Those, everyone, are my words. Apparently I swang at this entity for 10 minutes straight, screaming only to collapse on the floor after I rejoice as I had defeated him. But then he gets back up after being defeated. I see this and scream, "You're not taking any of us." I start throwing punches and then crumble to the floor. My wife rushes to me and helps me up. I'm able to focus on her and be fine, but anytime I turn my head I'm convinced someone right there is going to take me or my family, since every time I look away, I'm screaming, "You won't take me, my kids, or especially her." The fight rages a few more times with me fighting this thing in my head, but every time my wife touches me I let her control my actions, placing me on the bed or holding my arms behind my back as I cuss and degrade this entity. Whenever I'm looking at her, I'm able to regain my sanity for a bit. Every time I can see her I'm telling her how much she means to me. I start to pull it all together. I remember looking at her saying we should have intimacy. That way I can focus, reboot my brain, and I can stop this bull crap. Pulling from all the past bad experiences from half as much grass, thinking I knew exactly what was going on. My friends, I did not fully understand the level of effed up I was, because now I'm fully unclothed and for some reason I oil myself up, and the fight is on. I am gladiator style, fighting this thing, ball swinging in the gentle breeze. I allow my wife to control me again. We lay in bed. I would lay there trying to calm myself only to find myself on the floor over and over. My torso is bruised all over from bouncing off the end table. After this point I knew what was there for me. Since he was pulling me off the bed and trying to pull me with him through the floor. I remember pulling myself up off the floor trying to escape with the entity, pulling heavily on me, fighting with every bit of my strength, screaming that I won't effing go and it wasn't strong enough to take me. I'm sure the wife is beyond sick of me at this point, but she is an amazing person and just tried to call me and be my rock over and over. Then standing unclothed and oiled up at the end of the bed, bleeding from a self-inflicted cedar trunk wound on my chin, I start talking. This, everyone, is the end of my world and I'm not letting it happen. I'm gonna argue my way out of it so I can stay and protect my family. My argument? Indecipherable to any human, including my wife, but I cried and yelled a lot. The entity, by the way, is still a huge piece of crap. Then realizing I wasn't dying, but the universe that revolved around me was crashing like a computer program, I accepted my fate and laid holding my loving wife. I laid there with her consoling me, lying to me that it was just the brownies. I waited for the end of all existence. I felt my racing heart rate calm and stop. I felt her heart stop with mine. I flow through the cosmos as different feelings and a pitch black out of body experience. This time with my wife holding me almost made it worth it. Not really, but I did enjoy it. Then I woke up yesterday extremely sore, still kind of baked, and went to work. I came to grips it was just the brownie, and for the first time in about 2 years did not smoke last night.